Once upon a time, a young Stanford dropout promised to revolutionize healthcare and change the world. Her name was Elizabeth Holmes, and she was the CEO of Theranos, a multi-billion-dollar medical technology company. Little did anyone know that behind the scenes, her seemingly unbreakable empire was crumbling, and the consequences of her fraudulent business practices would shake the world. Let's take a closer look at the woman behind the legend. Elizabeth Holmes was an extraordinary young woman who dreamed of changing the world.
First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.
Born to two lawyers, she attended Stanford University in 2002, where she studied electrical engineering and chemical engineering. Her determination and drive led her to become the CEO of Theranos, a revolutionary medical technology company, at the age of 31. As the CEO, she was responsible for creating and leading the teams that developed innovative technologies to improve the diagnosis and treatment of diseases. She earned the reputation of a groundbreaking innovator, and her accomplishments have been recognized by major companies and organizations around the world.
We've made it possible to run comprehensive laboratory tests from a tiny sample or a few drops of blood to eliminate the tubes and tubes of blood that traditionally have to be drawn from an arm and replaced it with the nanotainer.
Unfortunately, her meteoric rise would be overshadowed by allegations of fraud and misrepresentation, and Theranos would eventually collapse, leading to legal fallout and serious consequences for Elizabeth Holmes and all those involved. We'll discuss these events more later on. Let's dive into the company behind the madness. Theranos was a revolutionary medical technology company founded by Elizabeth Holmes that promised to revolutionize the diagnosis and treatment of diseases.
Every person should have the ability to get that type of test, because if you understand that early that you're at risk, there's a lot more that you can do about it.
With the backing of powerful investors, she and her teams created a revolutionary device that could quickly and accurately diagnose ailments with just a few drops of blood. It seemed like an impossible dream that had come true, a dream that could change the world and lead to a brighter future. But despite the promise of a revolutionary new technology, things would soon unravel, and Theranos would become the symbol of a failed project.
They weren't even running most of the tests on the Theranos devices, and most of the tests were being run on third-party machines.
After a series of investigations and legal proceedings, the company collapsed, and Elizabeth Holmes faced serious legal and financial fallout. Let's first take a deep dive into the rise of Elizabeth Holmes, her collegiate education and early career. She was a young and ambitious woman whose motivation was fueled by her parents, Christian Holmes IV and Noelle Ann Doust. Christian worked for a slew of government agencies before moving the family to Houston, Texas, for a vice president gig at Enron. Holmes's mother was a policy aide in Washington, D.C. during the Ronald Reagan presidency. Both were descended from the family that created the Fleischmann's yeast and enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. So, at the age of 19, she enrolled in Stanford University, where she studied electrical engineering and chemical engineering. She was determined to use her education to make a difference in the world and was determined to follow her dreams. But she eventually dropped out of Stanford in 2003 to pursue her aspiration of founding Theranos. Here, she worked tirelessly to develop a revolutionary medical device that could quickly and accurately diagnose ailments with just a few drops of blood. Her hard work and determination paid off, and Theranos became a success. So, how did the idea for her company Theranos come about? We know Elizabeth had the grand idea to revolutionize the way disease is diagnosed and treated. Her idea was to create a device that could quickly and accurately diagnose ailments with just a few drops of blood. It seemed like an impossible dream, but her drive was strong and she was determined to make it a reality. That's where Theranos comes in. She founded Theranos and began working to develop a revolutionary medical device. She worked tirelessly and meticulously recruited the best engineers and scientists to help her make it a reality. Her dedication and determination eventually paid off, and the medical device became a reality. The device was a revolutionary breakthrough and could diagnose illnesses like cancer, diabetes, and many others. The medical device was called the Theranos test and was able to diagnose illness by using small drops of blood that were collected via finger pricks. The device was able to quickly detect a wide range of diseases and conditions, giving users quick results without the need for a lab visit. The device was also able to measure the levels of various substances such as vitamins and minerals in the blood to help diagnose and monitor unusual health conditions. At this point, Elizabeth Holmes had a revolutionary idea for a medical device that could quickly and accurately diagnose illness. Of course, her eagerness to make it a reality gained the attention of investors and media alike. The medical device was seen as the future of the industry. Even customers were lining up to get their hands on this new technology. Investors saw an opportunity to back a groundbreaking medical technology and began to invest heavily in the company. The biggest investors in Theranos were the Walton family, who invested $150 million, Rupert Murdoch, who invested $125 million, the DeVos family, who invested $100 million, Cox Enterprises, who invested $100 million, and Carlos Slim, who invested $30 million. With the investment came the media attention, which served to further promote the idea and company to the public. The device and company gained a lot of attention, with many people excited about the potential of the technology and the promise of a better future for medicine. When Theranos first made its revolutionary claims about its medical device, the media was abuzz with excitement. Ultimately, it was the media that brought the company to the forefront of public attention and helped to propel it to its brief moment of fame. Unfortunately, the dreams of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos were dashed when it was found that the device was fraudulent. But the backing of investors and media attention surrounding her and Theranos does speak to the potential of her revolutionary idea. So, how did the epic fall of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos actually come about? Long story short, it was alleged that Elizabeth Holmes had lied about the capabilities of the device, claiming it was much more accurate and reliable than it actually was. So, it didn't actually work.
We had sent them over 1,000 pages of documentation demonstrating that the statements in their piece were false, but we're doing things differently, and we're working to make a difference, and that means people raise questions.
The evidence against Elizabeth Holmes included allegations that she had misled investors by misrepresenting the capabilities of her medical device and failing to disclose important information. There were also testimonies from former employees as well as documents that showed undisclosed financial transactions and irregularities. Ultimately, the evidence was strong enough to lead to criminal charges against Elizabeth Holmes and her company. The allegations of fraud and misrepresentation ultimately led to the collapse of Theranos, and Elizabeth Holmes was hit with serious legal ramifications. She remains an inspiration to many, but the allegations surrounding her speaks to the risks of pursuing exorbitant dreams. The pursuits of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos seemed like a revolutionary future for the medical industry, but investigations into her alleged wrongdoings began, and the public was presented with a seemingly endless stream of evidence and testimonies. The evidence mounted against Elizabeth Holmes, and it all seemed like her dream was in serious danger of unraveling. The legal consequences of her alleged actions began to take shape, and the public watched anxiously as the investigation and legal fallout unfolded. The dream of Theranos and its revolutionary medical device was dashed. Elizabeth Holmes was found guilty of 4 counts of fraud in early 2021 and was sentenced to several years in prison. Upon her release, she will be subject to 3 years of supervision, including the payment of restitution to her creditors. Her conviction is a stark reminder of the consequences of unethical practices and the need for a greater level of corporate responsibility and oversight. Along with Elizabeth's conviction, the collapse of Theranos was sudden and dramatic. The company quickly ceased operations and the stocks plummeted. This led to lawsuits, criminal proceedings, and financial losses for many investors. In the end, the company was dissolved, and Elizabeth Holmes was charged with multiple criminal counts, including wire fraud and conspiracy. The consequences of the collapse were far-reaching and long-lasting, causing financial harm to many and damaging investor confidence in the biotech industry. Additionally, the collapse of Theranos revealed many of the risks associated with investing in medical technology startups. Investors were left wary of such investments as they had been misled by the false promises made by Theranos. Additionally, the failure of Theranos demonstrated the need for more stringent regulation of medical device companies to prevent fraud and misuse of funds. In the end, the collapse of Theranos served as an important lesson for the biotech industry and investors alike, highlighting the importance of due diligence and proper oversight. Many investors were left with significant losses due to the fraud and mismanagement of funds by the company. The Elizabeth Holmes Theranos debacle was a multi-million-dollar scandal involving many high-profile figures. Elizabeth Holmes was the founder and CEO of Theranos, while her business partner and ex-boyfriend Ramesh Sunny Balwani was the company's president and COO. Theranos was backed by some of the biggest venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, including Draper Fisher Jerviston, Formation 8, and Partners Venture. Additionally, many prominent figures in the medical and tech industries were involved, including Henry Kissinger, Donald Lucas, and George Shultz, who were all members of the company's board of directors. Furthermore, many high-profile investors such as Rupert Murdoch and Robert Kraft were involved with Theranos and suffered significant losses due to the scandal. The rise and fall of Elizabeth Holmes, CEO of Theranos, is an inspiring cautionary tale about ambition and the power of false promises. As this documentary comes to a close, we are left with one thought. No matter how ambitious and successful someone may appear, there is no guarantee of a happy ending. The dramatic effects of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos have reverberated throughout the world, providing lessons in corporate accountability, fraud, and ethical business practices. It has also served as a good warning to investors and entrepreneurs alike to be wary of companies that place too much emphasis on unregulated growth with insufficient oversight. With that, we have come to the end of the video. Please subscribe, share, and comment below if you found this content helpful. You've been awesome. Until next time.